Well. Another obstacle in my way. Yeah, what's wrong with these people? Why they gotta block the sidewalk up? Come and get your junk line. Life in a wheelchair ain't just fun. I hate it when it rains. I had to go get a tooth pulled, and this happens. At least I don't have a tooth bothering me anymore. I'm not the only one out in the rain. I hate it when it rains. Creep, y'all see the damn, there's a lot of water down there. Another restaurant has gone under. Best sandwich shop. Yeah, that's Bidenomics for you.
Credit and savings issues. Owning a $300,000 home will cost you around $2,500 a month, including taxes and fees, which could be a lot for Gen Zers who, according to one study, earn a median $4,000 a month before taxes and still have student debt to pay off.
Well, 10 years from now, as your income goes up to $12,000, $15,000 a month, that $2,500 doesn't seem like very much money. And so what may seem like a bit of an economic stretch to you today will seem like such a cheap and easy way for you to live for the long run.
Others looking for cheaper options could look into tiny homes, community-based co-ops, or co-living arrangements.
Here's the thing. If you're a Gen Zer, though, and you're going to co-live, don't have anything as a handshake agreement. Have everything in writing. Make sure that everything is out front, that it's in writing, because the greatest way to end a friendship is not to have clear rules, clear boundaries of what is happening in a relationship.
When looking into home loans, Andrea Altamirano says it really comes to your unique situation, regardless of your financial status or your debt.
There's always ways that we can figure out for that individual when it comes to maybe different down payment assistance, maybe a different program. We have conventional loans, we have FHA, we have VA loans. So it really depends to who is talking to us and what do you need based on your unique situation that we can match you with the best program for yourself.
There's always a little more to learn from the experienced when it comes to making more money and what to do with it.
Create your side hustle. Make sure your side hustle is generating some savings and you're putting that money away. Don't live off of it. And if you get an income increase, so let's say today you got a raise, don't change your lifestyle from what it was. Take your entire raise, put it away.
Sean Marshall, NTD News.
They'll spend it.
Victims of human trafficking around the globe. That's according to the State Department's 2024 report. Computers and phones are exacerbating the issue. Notably, China uses forced labor to operate scam centers to facilitate more human trafficking. The State Department noting that the Chinese regime has expanded these scam centers to the West.
From Southeast Asia to countries in the Western Hemisphere, Europe, Africa, and the Gulf, ensnaring victims from more than 60 countries.
And where they've established a web of elite influence, and in some instances have even taken over control of territories, establishing criminal zones from which they can engage in criminal activity and impunity.
China is ranked among the worst of countries and is listed as one of the 13 countries with governments that support human trafficking, forced labor, sexual slavery, or in some cases, even people's organs are harvested and trafficked. The department's report writes that the Chinese Communist Party is, quote, systematically, forcibly removing organs from political prisoners. In addition, countries have changed laws in an attempt to normalize sexual exploitation of women and children.
And they advocate for legalized prostitution. Not only do these terms subtly undermine U.S. law and the TVPA, which defines sex trafficking and personal sex acts. They also attempt to normalize sex trafficking and the sexual abuse and exploitation of children.
And in a separate hearing, senators probed the exploitation of unaccompanied migrant children. Senator Ron Johnson cited a New York Times article that states 85,000 children that were released to a U.S. sponsor are unaccounted for.
Children were sent to addresses that were abandoned houses, even after we reported making a 911 call after hearing someone scream for help, yet the child was still sent. Maria was released.
Less for us, less for cops, roads, and schools. Only President Trump will secure the border and stop the invasion of illegals. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Voters, Tiffany, I think it's pretty much baked into the cake. Everyone's made up their minds. But I want to point out that in 2020, former President Trump lost that election by a mere 43,000 votes in 3 swing states. So he knows that. The strategists know that, and they're trying to close the gap. And they know that this very stringent 6-week abortion ban is not working with female voters, Tiffany.
And Mike, to actually one of your earlier points, what has been the reaction to this platform by Republicans since its release?
I mean, the reaction's been kind of mixed, You know, I think there's a couple of different things. Robin kind of touched on it. The economic vision, right? Like the price of consumer goods are up year over year slightly from this time last year, even though it's been down under the Biden administration. You saw in this plan that he's released a little bit more about make America affordable again, right? And so we need to speak to a little bit more of the economic issues that are pressing right now. I'm also curious at the convention if the former president, Trump, will touch more on the debate performances, because I think that is right now at the top of mind of voters, seeing the former president, the current president at the debate, seeing President Biden in the ABC News interview with George Stephanopoulos. I think those are things right now, coupled with all of these different policies that maybe could appeal to independent voters, is something that's going to be really interesting to watch over these next couple of weeks and months.
And Robin, how do you read the relationship between the RNC and the Trump campaign?
They have a very strong relationship. And let me point out that Republicans tend to fall in line, but Democrats, as you're seeing, there's been so much fallout since the debate. Democrats have to fall in love. So that's the difference. Republicans fall in line. Democrats have to fall in love with their candidates, or else we have trouble, and we have trouble right here at home right now.
And expanding on that, Robin, what kind of action do you expect to see from the Democratic Party and the Biden campaign as a response to this new GOP platform?
Oh, they're going to be coming out very strong and saying that this is all talk, that talk is cheap, and that the actions show otherwise. They will be playing audio and video recordings of former President Trump saying that he is the one responsible for overturning Roe by placing these members of the Supreme Court justice up for nomination. So they're going to be hitting him pretty tough on this and pushing back, Tiffany.
And Mike, what are your last thoughts on this new platform?
Yeah, I mean, again, overall thoughts, it's just, you can continue to placate to the base, Tiffany, but I think what you're seeing in this is that they're trying to appease more to the middle. Look, RFK, Cornel West, Jill Stein, who will all be at the debate that we're having this Friday, July 12th over at Freedom Fest, they're garnering 15% of the vote right now in total. That's 23.5 million people right now that are not voting for either person named President Biden or former President Trump. So right now, the stances, the policy positions, the platforms, voters need to hear about it, and that's why I think you're seeing this sudden shift and change, because 23.5 million people is not something to sneeze over. And so we're going to be talking about this, until November. But that's my highest takeaway, is that you're seeing kind of this new softening stance from the former president, at least written, not verbally, right? So we're seeing that right now play out.
Robin Biro, Mike Leon, thank you both so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Push will pay much of this molecular cloud as it ages, and many of the structures we see here will begin to fade. Eventually, this impressive display will end, and the star itself will become more visible by telescope, but probably not for many years to come.
And coming up, former British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak stepping down. Sir,
to maintain, so Congress decided to get rid of it. in the latest government funding deal, and the sale now empties out what was left in the reserve. So let's hope that will have an impact.
Yeah, it seems like it will impact
it's
quite
gonna
a few
impact
people.
us.
The AAA says nearly 71 million Americans are expected to travel on July 4th. And of course, that's just around the corner. What do you have for us in terms of tips for traveling and other tips?
Well, one thing is, I mean, everybody wants to avoid the crowd, right? So if you're traveling by car this 4th of July, it's best to hit the road in the morning. So this is according to transportation data and insights provider INRIX. And the worst times to drive on or leading up to the holiday, generally between somewhere around 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. So drivers in large metro areas can expect the biggest delays on Wednesday, July the 3rd, and Sunday, July the 7th, as travelers leave and return to town. So
it's the second such nationwide missing children's operation. The Department of Justice says it focused on geographical areas with large clusters of critically missing children, delaying Trump's sentencing in the New York criminal case.
This follows yesterday's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity. The DA said he will file and serve a response by July 24th. Trump is currently scheduled for sentencing on July 11th.
And up ahead, in barrels of gasoline ahead of the holiday.
More about strategic reserves gone.
Police have left at least 39 people dead since last month. That and more when we return with NTD News.
I ain't kidding about the rain. At least you can hear the music. Ma, you want to change the camera? That's what I said, smile.
We're on the camera, right? What? No, I think it's on the server. Wow, I want to do it now. Can you all stay with me?
I was up there. Somebody's got something going.
How was your trip? Oh, to Europe? Yeah.
That's somebody else's neighborhood fireworks. This ain't it. Neighborhood stuff.
To the University of Chicago, Northwestern, NYU, all over the country. And then on top of that, we're getting doctors, residents, and interns at the nation's teaching hospitals. And they're saying the same thing. The union is putting out vicious propaganda against my religion, against Israel. And how do I get out of this? And so our phones are literally ringing off the hook, and we're advising these employees on how they can protect themselves from viciously anti-Semitic unions.
It seems that unions are veering off their original course of representing the workers, fighting for better working conditions. Should unions in general be getting involved in political matters?
And that's a great point.
No.
And the answer is no. They have no business getting involved in a foreign war.
City of Rafah into the theater of operation, where the battle between Israel and Hamas rages on. Once inside the city, the destruction is encompassing. No building left unscathed. Israeli forces say they encountered booby-trapped buildings and tunnel shafts, leading to an underground Hamas labyrinth.
The system has many functions. One of it is smuggling arms. The other one is for manufacturing rockets underneath.
It's all their objectives without the help of your grandparents, I guess, maybe great-grandparents. So thank you for your grandmothers and fathers that made us, helped us win the war.
These kids see through the graying hair and past the cane that helped stabilize an 89-year-old former paratrooper. They see young American soldiers who traveled a great distance decades ago to free a country from Nazi oppression. These scenes are repeated all over Normandy anytime D-Day veterans return. The walls of a restaurant adjacent to Utah Beach are filled with autographs. Bottles of wine are offered, and there are toasts. The French have not forgotten D-Day, nor will they ever. Long after these veterans have passed on, these children, who will then be adults, will tell their own kids about the day the soldiers visited their school and talked about freedom and sacrifice. They will also tell their kids that these soldiers told them that they aren't the heroes of D-Day, that the real heroes are buried just a few miles away in a cemetery overlooking Omaha Beach.